where a character begins is just as important as where they end up. Being around the campfire and talking about your past adventures is all a part of Myth, Tales of Legend. And we're here to talk about how you get started, at least a little bit, how you get started doing your adventures in this mysterious world. I'm Ross Watson, lead designer of Myth, Tales of Legend.
And I'm J.M. DeFoge, lead writer of Myth, Tales of Legend.
And we're talking today about the Myth, Tales of Legend starter set. One of the cool things about the starter set is that it has a expanded setting book in it, and J.M. has been hard at work on it. And you're going to tell us kind of all about what, I mean, if you want to talk about the starter set in general, that's also cool, but like specifically the setting book.
Yeah, so we've got the setting kind of split up, at least in our plan for like the wave one is there's going to be the player's information and the GM's information. But for a starter box, we needed something to put in the starter box. And so basically I went through kind of both sets of information, kind of the things that we had in the world guide. And so the quick start or the starter box is going to have 3 books. It's going to have the adventure book, it's going to have the rule book, and then it's going to have the setting book. And so it was my job to kind of take everything that we have worked on, repackage it, make sure it's not the same information, but kind of has the same impact on information. And so what you'll find in the setting book is, well, first of all, you're going to find the bestiary. That section is still under revisement because I haven't written the adventures yet, so we need to see what monsters go in the bestiary, but that's going to have all of the monsters that you're going to need for running the adventure. But basically it introduces myth, it introduces what you're going to find in the book, it introduces the themes of myth, which is, I mean, the themes of myth is a huge part of, I mean, if you've been watching the Campfire videos, Ross and I keep coming back to the major themes of myth. It has the history of the 4 kingdoms, and then a brief overview of Blackwall, Haldor, Canis, and Huhanasi. Just enough so that if all you have is the starter box and you have finished running through the adventures, that you can get a feeling for what else is out there and kind of expand out. But the main focus of the setting book is the Riverlands. So we've expanded the Riverlands material out quite a bit. You'll find, we talked about Brackenburg and Devonshire and Goodtier and River Falls, and they've been sort of reimagined as they sort of relate to the adventures in the starter book. So what you would need to know about there. But the main focus of the book is, and the largest section, I think like the 2 sections account for over half of the word count, is an expanded view of 3 Rivers, the capital of the Riverlands, and then an expanded view of the Dimwold, which is the home to the Dusk Court of the elves. It's home to Moonglow Spire, which means it's where the Lucanine have come back, and it sort of forms like 3 Rivers and the Dimwold are kind of the main focus of this starter box, mainly because, as we've mentioned before in the Riverlands video, the Riverlands are sort of your typical fantasy. Like when people think about like high fantasy settings, the Riverlands is kind of our starting point for that. So if you're coming in from other,
this is exactly right. But I think it's important to point out, like, this is not just a rehash of the stuff that's already in the player's guide, the player's guide. That material is still valuable, it's still great. But we had this opportunity in the starter set to say, well, let's, we have adventures in these 2 regions. Let's drill down a little further, so that if you do have those 2 books, you're like, I have a reason now to pick up the starter box and check out what's in it if I want to know more specifically about those 2 particular regions. Players who are going through the starter box, they'll be like, oh, cool, and they may even step into a game of Myth, Tales, Legend knowing just a little bit more about those particular regions because they came up through the starter set. And there's a lot of stuff in the starter set. We're probably have a video on that at some point later.
I'm excited about talking about that. Yeah.
When we have more to show, right now we're kind of still, it's work in progress a little bit. But JM has written some really great stuff for this setting, and he's, as you can tell, very, very excited about it. So tell us why is the 3 Rivers the starting point for the starter set adventures.
So the reason that we made it such a main focal point of this setting book is because the adventures in that we've outlined for the starter box really deal with the return of the Lucanine and how the Riverlands are responding. If you've watched our previous lore videos, you know that the Riverlands are sort of, they've been at peace, they're the wealthiest, they've kind of enjoyed this time of respite in the Age of Heroes because Blackwall's dealing with the unholy, and Farron Rock is keeping the majority of the threats from the North penned in, and High Haldor has, they're dealing with elementals and symbio, but like the Riverlands in general is the most peaceful and sort of, as I said, the most affluent of the kingdoms. And with this threat that suddenly appears miles away from their capital, they're forced to deal with this. And if you've read The Lost Barrow, you're going to see something that we are going to try and carry through with the Quickstart adventure, or with the starter box adventures, where the players are going to have opportunities in campfire scenes to sort of decide how things are playing out. And are the Lucanine a monolithic darkness threat? Is that how the Riverlands is going to deal with them? Is there a way to see that there are these desperate clans within the Lucanine, and maybe different things can be going on there? How Three Rivers sort of reacts to the Lucanine threat is going to depend a lot on how your heroes interact with the Lucanine threat.
I love that. I love the fact that the campfire is now becoming sort of this decision point that has ramifications later on. Like, this is going to shape a little bit your campaign. It's going to mean the game master's going to want to pay attention to these sections a little more than usual, I think. But I like it, and I like the fact that as a starting point, it does offer all the things you really need to get going into the world of myth. Yeah. And as you say, there's a clear present danger. So
a very clear present danger.
I noticed that like some of the extra details that you've added to the Three Rivers, for example, is the Lion's Bounty Board. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, the Bounty Board in the Lion's Plaza is what I meant. Now this is basically like, I want to make some money, I want to do a job. Hey, there's someone who has written and posted a notice of someone who needs a job done, and that's kind of cool. It's a bit reminiscent of like some of those old video game RPGs I used to play a lot of, where I'm like, oh man, I just need a few more gold. I'll go see if there's a quick bounty I can do.
Yeah, I think. Neat. For Three Rivers, as I was writing it up, I think that Baldur's Gate was something that I was like, I had in the back of my mind. Camelin from the Wheel of Time, from Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. Camelin really was sort of one of those things that was kind of present in my mind as I was like, well, what is Three Rivers sort of like? I liked having, like you said, the Lion Plaza is a lot of fun. There's this statue of this hero that no one actually remembers, and it's actually been worn down to the point that you kind of see yourself in this sort of androgynous, speciesless,
anonymous figure.
Yeah.
It's a bit Fable. It's a bit like Fable in that,
Oh yeah. Oh, Fable.
I like that.
Man, I haven't played Fable in forever. That's a so we sort of expanded out Three Rivers as opposed to just talking about it. We have the districts, we have NPCs, we have locations. I really so the Grey Taker is an NPC on the Forum Isle who is this thief who's robbing council members and selling their goods in another area of town, and nobody knows who they are. But if you watched our last video, going after the Grey Taker would be a great goal, or picking the Grey Taker as a mentor would be, I think, awesome.
You've got an interesting character, also Herschel.
Yes,
who is the wheelchair-bound dwarf, and first of all, it's interesting to see a disabled character. Second of all, he's got some interesting plans, and
he's sort of
definitely
built up the western side of the city as sort of like the merchant's paradise, and he wants to keep it going. I really liked Brewmaster Brill. I have the, one of the things I was looking at was, well, like, why we said that the 4 Mile is like always just this immaculate island. And so as I was pondering it, I was like, all right, well, I guess there needs to be someone who is keeping things clean. And I'm like, well, listen, if you have this guild of people who keep the island clean, they can go anywhere. Oh, that would be a great cover for like the Assassins. And so there's this guild of street
We're just
sweeps.
taking out the trash.
Yeah,
We're just taking out the trash.
And so like there's ways to contact them. There's hooks for GMs to go, hey, the Brewmaster's come to talk to you because your name has come up, and either you're going to help them out or they're going to make a clean sweep of your whole adventuring party.
So it's not Brewmaster, it's Broommaster.
Broommaster, yeah.
Right. Okay. Maybe we should think of like a Broom Lord or some other, because it could be Reams. There's a way to hear that just doesn't sound right. Like, he makes beer, right?
Oh, Brewmaster. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So I liked Herschel. I liked. I'm trying to think of other things that. There are 2 little nods to. So the Morning Lord has both a shrine and a temple here, and the problem is the shrine. There's this prophetess like Cassandra who's prophesying all of these doom, and she's not really associated with the temple, and so the temple is like, just be quiet, stop standing in the gate yelling that doom is going to come from the sea.
Yeah, it's very Cthulhu. I like it. Now, so our adventures take us though from the 3 Rivers in the starter set, and we end up venturing into the Dimmold. We've talked a little bit about the Dimmold, but can you briefly restate what it is, and then why we need to go there, and maybe even like a little bit about what's different about it in the starter set?
So the Dimmold is one of 2 remaining great forests in the 4 kingdoms, and as the elves and the Spriggan view it, they're sort of the 2 remaining pockets of sentience from the Urwood, this great wood that covered all of the 4 kingdoms in the Age of Breaking. And so the Dusk Court is the court of elves that lives in the Urwood, and kind of what we explore in here is the fact that, like, for a long time, the reason the Dusk Court went and lived underground beneath the Urwood is for a long time when the trees were being cut down and the forests were shrinking, the heart of the Urwood lay here in the Dimwold, and it grew angry and it grew vengeful and it grew dark, and even the elves could not walk unharmed through the forest.
Whoa.
And now, centuries later, there's still this sort of malevolent haze and presence. Like if you're not an elf or a Spriggan and you walk through the Dimwold, it's like the branches reach down to scratch at your face.
It holds a grudge.
It does.
A grudge.
And so some people are lamenting the fact that the heart goes longer without waking up and they can't commune with it, and some of the elves are like, this is actually a good thing because it seems
let him sleep.
It seems to hate everyone. And so into the midst of this,
he'll feel better. He'll feel better once he gets
that's
some
right.
rest.
It just needs a little bit more rest. And so what we have is we also have this the Lucanine have shown up, and they're ripping down parts of the forest to build their territory around the Moonglow Spire. And so you have a lot of tensions in here. So in the 3 Rivers, you have the council, because the Deaf Council has been replaced by the 3 Rivers Council, but there's this undercurrent of sort of civil unrest with the council and how they've been handling things. Well, with the Dusk Court, you have a monarchy, you have this ruling noble house, but the heir is very weak, and so there are people who are like, look at the Lucanine, this is our chance to get this noble line out and replace them with our guy. And then you have the fact that and I think Ross rightly directed me away from having the Lucanine as just this monolithic group that came out. So there were not all of the clans that were exiled have actually returned. Only some of them were brave enough to come through, and out of these clans, 3 of them have bowed to this one great clan chief. But there are others. Some are separated. Some are like actively antagonistic. Some of them are trying to get underground where they can just leave the forest, slaughter the elves, and sort of reign in these kingdoms that they seem just like it's like someone prepared them for them. We just have to get rid of all of these these elves, and then we can just live here kind of in harmony.
I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, maybe not harmony, but at least their hold could live.
The Lucanine might be okay. I don't think the forest would.
No, there's a reason why you go underground in the Dimwald when the forest doesn't like you.
Yeah, but that is cool, and it does lead a lot of neat things for adventure. I love the idea that the heart is still holding a grudge. I love the idea that the forest is just a little bit darker and a little malevolent. Without being evil, it's just it's not an evil place. It's just an angry place. It's like really angry.
Yeah, and when you think about it, like we established that the forest was sentient, and the elves lived in harmony with it, and the Spriggan lived in harmony with it, and then and again, we're not trying to say that humans did any of this out of maliciousness, but as the humans and the dwarves started to expand, well, we know how we would expand in this world, and you cut down trees to get more grazeland, to get lumber and resources, and so they fought against the darkness for so long, and they were winning, and then these other species come up, and whether the darkness purposefully manipulated them too, or it's just some inherent trait of humanity, that's why the forest lost. It wasn't against this great battle against the darkness. It was because of humanity. And so it's got this grudge against those that are not its allies.
Well, I mean, I'm not even sure. You describe it as being only like half awake at the best of time. So maybe it's just like, go away. Oh, you're an elf. Okay, maybe you're all right. But go away.
There are some Spriggan who are like, we need to awaken the forest to fight the Lucanine, and there are people who are like, I don't know that's a great idea.
Terrible idea. Now, there's a place I read about in your write-up that fired my imagination. I love every bit of it, and I want you to explain to our viewers, because I want to hear you describe it as well. Throne Lake.
Oh,
Throne Lake is awesome.
Thanks. So Throne Lake. So the Glittering Caverns are the holds of the Dusk Court elves, and to be very clear, the Dusk Court they're not drow in any way, shape, or form. They are elves. They just they live in underground mansions as opposed to kind of above ground like the Dawn Court does. And so there are all of these different cares, and there is a noble each care is in the property, is the hold of a noble house, and then there is Throne Lake.
So a care is like a keep.
Yes,
it's an elven word for like a keep.
Yeah,
okay.
and but Throne Lake was designed for not for a noble house, but for the royal line. And the royal line kind of bounces around between the noble houses. It's been in one line for a very long time. And so Throne Lake is this massive underground lake that the Dusk Court elves, over the ages they have been down here, they have raised this island out of the lake, and it's supported on like these carved pillars of precious gems and veins of crystal that they have mined. And so a lot of the light that is in these underground mansions are either these old lamps that were forged long ago and they can't remake them, but what they can do is they carve mirrors and they carve veins of crystal that channel light from above down into the underground caverns. So you still have almost a day and night cycle down here, because starlight and moonlight reflects differently through all of these things than sunlight. What's that other orb in the sky that casts light? Oh, right, the sun. So there's this island, and it's actually the Gloaming Palace is going to be the last. If the Glittering Caverns fall, the elves retreat to the Gloaming Palace that's on this island in the middle of this underground lake, and it's a fortress palace. And I also
it's called the Gloaming Palace.
Yeah, and I like there's this artifact, the Twilight Throne, that sort of keeps the wisdom and memories of everyone who has sat upon it. And so right now, the king and the queen of the elves, they kind of jointly reign. The throne kind of has to accept you to become the king or queen of the Dusk Court. So that's,
and the island's in the middle of the lake isn't just an island. It's actually on pillars of emerald and topaz and amethyst. It's like this. I mean, you think you're in a cave and it's dark, and then no, it's like this freaking Disney gleaming palace in the center of this lake. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of awesome. I dig it. I really want to go there. I want to go there so bad. Like it's fantastic.
That's the response we want, though, right?
I really dig it. And you have more information on different characters as well. You've added some more to the area to talk to more people and places, things to go. So originally, we talked about Frostrime and Gemgleam, but you've also introduced the King and Queen, which is King Aranon and Queen Galana.
And then,
which is...
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Nope.
Oh, I was going to say, and then we introduced sort of the master of one of these, like the ruler of one of these other noble houses, Master Sephra, who is sort of like the archmage of the Dusk Court, except she doesn't think that the king and queen or their heir are worthy anymore, and this threat has sort of like heightened all of the all royal houses. You kind of get to the point where it's like, well, is this heir really worth it? And when you put them under times of crisis, the cracks and the failings of the house come out. But sometimes the heir surprises you, and maybe we're going to put, maybe Ansem will actually like rise to the occasion. Who knows?
So we've been hitting just sort of the high points, the points that stuck out to us from this starter set. There's actually more to get into. We're probably gonna have to do a part 2 to this.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about the Packlands in the next.
I think we need to, and I think what we should do for next time is probably go back through and highlight anything that we left out there. We're like, oh, there was this. That's important. We need to talk about that. But also go over the Packlands, and I want to hear from the viewers, like guys, put your notes in the comments. Like, what are some things you'd like to hear us talk more about? I know I'd like to actually hear JM answer this question. Let's say you're a player in a game. I'm running it. I'm with you, and we're starting this in the Three Rivers. Where is the first place you would want to go as a player character?
As a player character, just in the Three Rivers, or in kind of.
The Three Rivers.
Just in the Three Rivers, I would go to Lion Plaza. So there's Lion Plaza, but I think depending on who my character was, in the Three Rivers, there is this little. Let me pull it up here. The Unnamed Alley is this cool. little alley in the Sprawl, which is the eastern side of the city, where everything comes through the Three Rivers. So of course there is cuisine roll, and so you can get like the spicy food of the Blackwaller, or kind of the tribal dishes from other places, or
Canis curry,
or the like seafood from further down the river. And so I feel like it would be just fun to go to this.
Sushi.
That's right. It would be great to just go there and go, well, what do I find there? Like, I don't know. It's just one of those like things that fired my imagination, and I would want to go visit it and see what a GM could do with it.
Sweet. So we're definitely going to be picking back up with more on the Myth Tales Legend starter set setting overview. We'll be catching up with that in a couple of weeks, I think, depending on when this airs. Be sure to check out some of the other shows on the Ulysses channel. We've got a lot going on there. And if you'd like to know more about Myth, Tales, Legend, you can find our Quickstart, The Lost Barrow, is available for pay what you want on Drive-Thru RPG. It includes an adventure written by JM, rules written by me, player characters written by both of us. We were the team supreme that built that whole thing, and you can go check it out. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
In the meantime, JM is running some games.
I'm running Torg on Tuesday nights. The Four Horsemen, the game keeps getting more and more tense. More and more of the layers are being pulled back. The players are starting to see kind of Lapus's overarching plan. On Thursday nights, I run Fading Suns. We're coming to the end of an arc. The group is finally getting to the point where they're confronting Ashkagael. And one of the things I love about Fading Suns is that some things cannot be solved with bullet and blade. They're matters of faith, and so we're going to have to see how the group sort of approaches this. And then once we come back, once we wrap up this arc of Fading Suns, before we start the next one, we're gonna take some time. We're gonna play through the Lost Barrow, do an actual play of the Lost Barrow. I'm gonna try and get Ross in on that, and I think it should be a lot of fun to kind of see how it plays out and show it to everybody, because Ross and I have been working on this for over a year at this point, and so
that's right. And you can also catch me in a Torg game. I played in the Tharkol, the Blasted Lands session, so check that out. And that's going to kind of take us to the end of this episode. So thanks to all our fans. Stay safe out there, and until next time,
keep telling stories.